Now we're going to be doing the MC5 Task 1, which is the oil and filter change. So first thing we need to do is start the engine, leave it ticking over for about 5 minutes, obviously put exhaust extraction on, switch it off, leave it for a few minutes, give it a chance for the oil at the top of the engine to drain back into the sump. The reason why we start the engine so the engine is warm is because warm oil is thinner and you get more of the engine oil out. So at the base of the engine is your sump nut. It's a 17mm. Be careful, always wear your PPE as well, because used engine oil is cancerous. It's been linked to skin cancer, and it will also give you dermatitis, which is a nasty rash. So once you've taken the sump plug out, we need to give it a clean, make sure there's no metal particles stuck to the end, because the ends are magnetic, so any metal in the oil system actually sticks to the sump plug instead of being circulated around the engine. So while we're waiting for that to drain, use a 3/8 drive, small one. It's a 10mm nut. Be careful not to drop the oil into the used engine oil. Drop the nut usually. So inside there, that's your oil filter. So we just need a little magnet now just to prise it out. Right. So here we have a little magnetic tool. Out it pops. There you go, there's your oil filter. You need to inspect it, make sure there's no bits of metal. That one looks pretty clean because it's a brand new engine. So in the real world, what you'll be doing, you get another filter and refit it. I'll never put an old filter back in. When you're putting a new filter back in, make sure it's the right way around, because that sits on a shaft inside. So that shaft sits in there, so you just pop it back in, make sure it's recessed, make sure it's in. On the cover there's a little spring, and that spring keeps the oil filter as tight up to the back as possible. Once you put them in finger tight, just need to give them a little nip up. You don't need to do it too tight, because otherwise you might strip the thread. So that's the basics of an oil filter change. Right. So we clean the sump nut, we'll put a new washer on the base there. It up. Again, don't nip it too tight. So, as with the master cylinder, as with the caliper, we need to torque it up. The torque setting is 40 Newton meters on the sump plug. Because we've drained the oil out, next thing we need to do is fill it with fresh oil. There we go. So So what we need to do is just top it up with oil. Try not to overfill the funnel. And you should see a level. There's your sight glass. There's full and low, and you'll see the oil coming up. We need to make sure also when you're checking the oil level, make sure that the bike is actually on flat level ground and it's on its centre stand, because otherwise it will give you a false reading. On the task, MC5 task 1, you have to inspect the breather pipes from the engine. So round the other side we can actually see the engine breather pipe. What it does is stops excess pressure building up and gives a vent, and it'll come out. Should come out. There we go. Make sure it's not trapped behind the rear wheel. Make sure it's secure. Also, a little modification that a lot of people do is cut a hole in the chain guard and have the vent pipe running above the chain. So the excess oil and the mist, the oil mist that comes up, actually helps to lubricate the chain. So there we go. There's MC5 task 1.